Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the Sound Mind podcast, where we dive into the fascinating world of music psychology. I'm your host, Sophia, and as a music psychologist, I'll be guiding you through everything you've ever wanted to know about music. So if you love music or are just interested in the science of sound, you're in the right place, so stick around. Now, I thought this week, with Valentine's Day coming up, it would be super fun to do an episode on how music shapes our romantic relationships. So, yeah, right on theme, we're going to be talking about love, attraction, and heartbreak, all through the lens of music. Now, I know Valentine's Day can be a mixed bag of emotions depending on your situation, and at the end of the day, it is just a commercial holiday. But love and music, those are two things that are universal. Whether you're happily in love, newly single, or just here for the tunes, music has a way of capturing all the highs and lows of relationships in a way that words alone just can't. When thinking about love, music is so closely associated, and that lies in the early days of romantic traditions. During the medieval period, poets and musicians from France and Germany composed songs about courtly love. These songs idealize romance, portraying love as deep, passionate, and sometimes unrequited. These early love songs were performed in courts and grand feasts, which really reinforced the idea of Valentine's Day as a celebration of romantic devotion. The themes of these songs, desire, admiration, and the joys and sorrows of love, set the stage for centuries of musical storytelling about romance. The idea of using music to express love, whether through a serenade or a dedicated song, continues to this day, which makes Valentine's Day one of the most musically significant holidays. But music isn't just something we listen to. It's something that connects us, shapes our emotions, and relationships with those around us. But can music really make us fall in love? How can a song create a bond between two people? Why do we love listening to those sad love songs when we're heartbroken? And how do those same songs drive expectations of love? This is honestly one of my favorite areas of research. It's just so interesting. So let's get into it. Now, one of the most fascinating aspects of music in romantic relationships is the idea that music can actually make us fall in love. Well, there's a lot more to it than just listening to music that you both like. Studies show that music can act as a catalyst for attraction. It's not just about the lyrics or the melody. It's the fact that music plays a role in both attraction and connection, and both are essential when it comes to romantic relationships. So let's start with music for attraction. This concept suggests that music acts as a signal to showcase certain traits that might make someone a desirable partner. Think of it as the evolutionary function of music, dating back to our primate ancestors. For example, think about how popular musicians are often portrayed as these sex icons. This really supports the idea that musical ability in itself is considered innately attractive and could play a role in mate selection. Research in the field highlights that music can be used to display general fitness, which are traits that make someone an appealing partner, but also compatibility, like bonding over a shared love for a particular genre or band, and suddenly it feels like you share a deeper bond. This role of music in connection plays a crucial part in how we maintain relationships over time. This concept comes from research in the field that looks at how music helps us socially bond with one another. So think about it. Once you're in a relationship, you don't just stop listening to music together. In fact, music helps reinforce the bond that you share. This idea of bonding through music is similar to duetting behavior in other animals like birds or other primates, where singing together helps strengthen their social ties. And actually, as humans, we use music in a similar way to build and maintain connections with others. So whether it's sharing a song that's meaningful to both of you or even attending concerts together, music plays a role in keeping your relationship strong. One intriguing finding is how music can trigger emotional contagion, where one person's emotions are transferred to another. And this effect is particularly strong in the early stages of meeting someone and actually falling in love. So when we listen to emotionally charged music with a potential partner, whether it's a romantic song or a piece that resonates with a shared experience, we often begin to experience similar emotions. And this shared emotional experience can create an instant bond between two people, heightening attraction and intimacy. At this stage, music really plays a powerful role in building that initial connection, and this is particularly significant when it comes to romantic attraction. So think about those rom-com scenes of a first slow dance that causes the main characters to fall in love. It's technically not an exaggeration. The ability to empathize with another person through music creates a sense of connection that goes beyond words or even shared experiences. By feeling the emotions of a song together, you're essentially syncing up emotionally, which can increase feelings of intimacy. This shared experience of emotional resonance allows both individuals to see each other in a new light and can help bring up the feelings of connection and attachment that are foundational in the early stages of falling in love. In 1986, psychologist Robert Sternberg introduced something called the triangular theory of love, which breaks love down into three main parts or components. These components form the three corners of a triangle. You've got intimacy, passion, and commitment. Intimacy is about feeling close, connected, and having a strong bond with someone. Passion is the intense feeling of attraction, excitement, and physical desire. And lastly, commitment is about the decision to stay with someone long-term and make the relationship work. Depending on how much each of these components is present, different types of love can emerge. So, for example, he labeled non-love is when there's no intimacy, no passion, and no commitment. Basically, no relationship. Whereas liking happens when there's a lot of intimacy, like close friendship, but not much passion or commitment. And then there's consummate love, which is the perfect kind of love, where all three components, intimacy, passion, and commitment, are strongly present. Now, the reason I bring this up is I want to dive a little bit into a piece of research that was published actually just last year, so super recent. And it was conducted by Bamford and colleagues. And they acknowledged that a lot of the research on music and social bonding has primarily focused on general relationships rather than romantic ones. So they wanted to explore how attraction and bonding might be connected and whether they play out differently at various stages or in different types of relationships. Super interesting stuff. From this research, Bamford and colleagues created a framework called the Music Evolution Love Model, which shows how music can enrich these three different components of love that I mentioned in different stages of a relationship. In other words, music can enhance intimacy, boost passion, or even support long-term commitment, depending on where you are in the relationship. Whether you're at the start of a relationship or in a long-term partnership, music plays a crucial role in strengthening these three key elements of love. So I want to dive a little bit into their research and this model, as I think it really lays a great foundation on how music plays a role at different stages in a relationship. Since I already spoke a little bit about that initial attraction phase, I want to focus on the second and last stages of the model. So in the second stage, which centers around building a relationship, music takes on a crucial role in reducing uncertainty and fostering deeper emotional connections between partners. This phase is all about moving beyond the initial spark of attraction and diving into more meaningful, intimate interactions. As passion continues to play a role, intimacy becomes the most important factor in creating a stable emotional connection. Commitment does start to come into play here, but the focus is primarily on building understanding, trust, and closeness. As intimacy becomes the focus, sharing musical preferences allows partners to express their identities and gain deeper insights into each other. And this self-disclosure reduces insecurities, helping partners feel more secure and understood. But beyond discussions about musical preferences, engaging in shared musical activities like listening to music together, singing, or even dancing further enhances these bonds. Research shows that musical activities increase feelings of social connectedness, for example, in group singing, which has been shown to boost levels of oxytocin and promote trust and emotional closeness. Music making, particularly improvisation, also amplifies this effect. Partners that engage in improvisation create real-time emotional connections through eye contact, synchronized actions, and spontaneous communication. And this interaction really strengthens that trust and intimacy faster than other activities like traditional small talk, which really facilitates deeper emotional exchanges. And engaging in all these different types of musical exchange has been referred to as the icebreaker effect of music. This effect really allows partners to move past superficial conversations and bond more quickly with each other. It helps to accelerate trust building and emotional sharing, as the synchrony involved in music making really promotes a sense of shared intention, reinforcing commitment and mutual responsibility. But even just sharing music with each other, it really kind of opens a new realm of vulnerability and openness. And that really helps to also reinforce that level of commitment and emotional exchange. I just want to highlight as well, when I talk about music making and improvisational activities, I don't mean necessarily sitting down and composing this Mozart level composition. I more mean those small, intimate moments in a relationship where things just happen at random. So whether that's singing along together in the car, humming along to the radio, or even those little inside jokes, making up a silly song, all of those things contribute to this feeling of emotional closeness and really helps to foster increased intimacy in comparison to couples that maybe don't engage in those things. All in all, it's about going past that level of non-verbal communication and just being able to engage in something that isn't purely talking to each other. Now, in the next and final stage of Bamford and colleagues' model, maintaining a relationship becomes the central focus. As the relationship matures, the emphasis shifts towards almost rebonding with your partner, prioritizing intimacy and commitment with a reduced emphasis on passion. And music serves as a powerful tool in this process for continuous connection, ensuring that you maintain that stage I mentioned earlier of consummate love. Again, shared musical activities such as listening to music together or singing really help partners engage in self-disclosure and coordination, which in turn strengthen their commitment. One of the most prominent ways music helps this bond is through the creation of couple-defining songs. And these are those songs that hold special meaning for you as a couple, often chosen early in the relationship to symbolize their shared identity. These songs serve as a reminder of the initial attraction and connection established in earlier phases, which really reinforces the sense of we and deepens the sense of commitment. The positive emotions and memories associated with these songs can also rekindle that intimacy and passion over time, allowing couples to reconnect with the emotional essence of their relationship. Sharing music has also been associated with higher levels of perceived commitment. When partners share music with each other, they're not only exchanging songs, but also sharing pieces of their identities, emotions, and histories. The act of sharing a song that resonates emotionally can signal a desire for deeper emotional engagement, reinforcing a sense of mutual commitment. Particularly in long-distance relationships, it helps to maintain emotional closeness. So, for example, partners might send each other playlists or favorite songs as a way to stay emotionally connected, even when apart. This could tie into the idea of using music for self-disclosure, as it becomes a form of non-verbal communication and just something fun, as I mentioned earlier, to engage in that isn't just talking. One other interesting function of music here is the emotion regulating function of music that might play a role in conflict management. Now, there was a study where participants reported that listening to music alone after an argument can be helpful in calming down and thinking more clearly, while listening to music together or even making music after an argument together can restore intimacy in the relationship. I think this is really interesting, and here music plays that role almost of the mediator. It's like having a third person in the room that's able to calm you down, even talk you through your emotions in the sense of listening to music, and just rebuilding that sense of trust and closeness after an argument. And the fact that music can play that role is really special. Also, we know that music is linked to a reduction in the stress hormone cortisol, and actually, stress is also associated with less sexual desire, which particularly affects the passion and intimacy components of a relationship. So, music can also benefit a relationship in this aspect too. However, despite music's ability to strengthen and nurture relationships, not all musical experiences in this area are about unity and connection. When relationships face challenges or come to an end, music can also become a powerful companion in navigating the emotional aftermath. Heartbreak anthems are more than just songs. They serve as emotional companions, offering validation, catharsis, and a sense of solidarity in those moments of heartache. These songs really tap into the universal experience of loss, providing an outlet for emotions that may feel a bit too heavy to express in words, particularly in those earlier stages of a breakup. Heartbreak anthems resonate deeply because they give expression to feelings that many of us find difficult to articulate. These songs reflect the raw emotions of confusion, sorrow, and anger that often accompany the end of a relationship. They almost hold up a mirror to our experience, capturing what we may be unable to say ourselves. And this can be incredibly cathartic, as these songs act as a vessel for emotional expression and processing. Think about tracks like Adele's Someone Like You or We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together by Taylor Swift. These are examples of how music articulates our emotional states, giving voice to the complexities of love lost and the grief that comes with that too. Now, research into the therapeutic effects of sad music reveal its capacity to aid us in emotional regulation. By providing a safe space for emotional release, these songs allow listeners to work through their grief, often through repeated listening, actually. I think we can all admit that we've had those songs on repeat when processing those difficult emotions. This emotional release or catharsis helps clear the weight of heartbreak and fosters healing. But what's even more fascinating is that despite their melancholic tone, these songs can also be deeply pleasurable. There's a reason why we want to keep listening to them. Their aesthetic beauty and emotional depth makes them feel comforting rather than threatening. And studies suggest that engaging with sad music actually helps us to build empathy and self-reflection, transforming pain into something meaningful. It feels like someone is listening to you. They're putting your own experiences into words and singing them back to you. And there's something so comforting about listening to that and feeling like you're not alone in what you're feeling. And neuroimaging research even shows that our brains process this kind of music in a way that promotes emotional healing, almost like a form of sonic therapy. Now, this ties into next week's episode on the use of music as a therapeutic tool. So if you're interested in that, make sure you stick around for next week's episode. But on that note, I just want to pop in and say, if you are enjoying this episode so far, it would mean the world if you could rate it, review, leave a comment on wherever you're listening. It really helps the Sound Mind reach more like-minded listeners just like you. Thank you so much, and let's get back into it. Heartbreak anthems also create a sense of community. While breakups can feel isolating, these songs help to bridge that gap by connecting listeners who share similar experiences. Artists often write from their personal pain, creating songs that resonate deeply with other people going through the same heartbreak experiences. And this shared emotional experience forms an invisible bond between the artist and the listener, and between the listeners themselves. Classic songs like I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor have become cultural touchstones, transcending their original context to unite people through a common emotional journey. And that's so amazing about this genre, that something so beautiful can come out of something so painful. Whether it's belting out breakup anthems at karaoke, blasting them during a night out with friends, or even bonding over them online, heartbreak songs become a communal ritual. They offer a way for people to externalize their emotions and find solace in the knowledge that they're not alone. Millions of others have felt the same pain and emerged stronger, even someone as iconic as Gloria Gaynor. Heartbreak anthems also play a pivotal role in forming post-relationship identity. The end of a relationship often triggers self-reflection, prompting people to rediscover their sense of self. And empowerment songs such as I Will Survive not only soothe but also encourage personal growth and resilience, reframing the end of a relationship as an opportunity for self-discovery. These songs remind listeners of their strength and self-worth, helping them move forward with a renewed sense of independence. People use them as motivation to make changes, whether that means focusing on self-improvement, setting new goals, or simply regaining confidence in their own identity. Just as a relationship might have shaped a person's emotional world, the music they turn to after a breakup also helps them to define who they are outside of that relationship. Ultimately, heartbreak anthems are more than just a temporary solace. They are essential in the emotional recovery process. By providing a space for catharsis, promoting social connection, and encouraging personal growth, these songs guide listeners through the complexities of grief and healing. They remind us that heartache is a shared human experience, and though it's challenging, it's always possible to heal, grow, and reclaim one's sense of self in the process. Now, I also want to discuss a final, interesting role of music in relationships: how love songs can shape our expectations of love and attachment. Love songs don't just reflect our emotions, they actively shape our beliefs about love, relationships, and attachment. From childhood, we're exposed to lyrics that paint vivid pictures of romance, heartbreak, and devotion, subtly influencing how we navigate our own emotional worlds. I remember as a child asking the question of, why is every song about love? And that's such an interesting question, because I think if we were to analyze the lyrics of every single song that existed in the history of mankind, I would say the top theme would be love. And I think that speaks to not just its importance in society and human existence overall, but also its influence in the way that we think and our beliefs and the way that we approach our romantic relationships. So we all have different attachment styles, which in simple terms describe how we connect with and relate to others in romantic relationships. Some of us feel secure in love, whilst others might experience anxiety, a fear of abandonment, or even emotional avoidance. The thing is, music doesn't just mirror these feelings, it reinforces them. Now, I didn't want to dig too much into the science of attachment in this podcast. I could talk about it forever. But if you are interested in finding out more, there is an incredible book, genuinely one of my favorite of all time. It's called Attached: The New Science of Adult Attachment and How It Can Help You Find and Keep Love. It's written by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. It will give you all the information you need to know about attachment theory. It will also help you figure out your attachment style, which I promise you, super important. But anyway, focusing back to music, let's take an example. If someone has an anxious attachment style, meaning that they crave reassurance and fear abandonment, they might find themselves gravitating towards love songs that validate these emotions. Songs about longing, waiting for a call that never comes, or chasing after someone who won't commit. Think of songs like Unbreak My Heart by Toni Braxton or I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. They capture that deep, almost painful devotion, sticking around for love even when it hurts. And if you already have a tendency to worry about relationships, these songs can feel like confirmation that love should be intense, uncertain, and filled with emotional highs and lows. And on the other hand, people with avoidant attachment styles who tend to keep love at a distance, they might find comfort in songs that celebrate independence and emotional self-sufficiency. Think something like Irreplaceable by Beyoncé. These songs send a strong message that love should never make you too vulnerable, and that moving on is the best response to emotional pain. Now, this isn't to say that love songs are fully responsible for how we attach to people, but they do reinforce certain patterns that may already be underlying. When you're constantly listening to music that tells you love is a roller coaster, or that the best response to heartbreak is shutting down emotionally, it subtly shapes how you perceive relationships. One of the biggest ways love songs influence us is by romanticizing longing and heartbreak. If you think about some of the most iconic love songs, they often tell stories of unrequited love, waiting for someone to come back, or loving someone who doesn't love you the same way. So, take Someone Like You by Adele. It's a beautiful song, right? And it resonates with so many of us because it taps into something universal. We've all had moments of heartbreak where we struggle to let go. But when you listen to enough songs like this, you start to internalize the idea that real love should involve a bit of suffering, and that if love isn't painful, it isn't deep enough. Classic love songs, especially in the 20th century, really leaned into this idea that love is about chasing after someone who's just out of reach. And even today, we still see it. Songs about calling your ex late at night, waiting for someone to realize they love you, or believing that love will always be complicated. If we're not careful, these narratives can make us think that healthy, stable love is boring, when in reality, it's the kind of love that actually lasts and the kind of love that we need. Now, let's focus on today's love songs. While the classic ballads focused on longing and deep devotion, modern pop music often leans into instant gratification in relationships. Songs about whirlwind romances, hookups, and moving on quickly have almost become the norm. Think about songs like Thank You Next by Ariana Grande. It's all about growth and moving forward. There's no wallowing in heartbreak, no waiting around. There's this idea that emotional recovery should be fast, and we should always be looking ahead. Now, this shift in love songs reflects our broader culture. Dating apps have made relationships more fast-paced. We're constantly connected through social media, and there's an emphasis on not dwelling on the past. But that also comes with its own set of challenges. If we're only hearing songs that tell us to move on immediately, we might start feeling guilty for taking time to process heartbreak. So, while old school love songs might have over-romanticized pain, modern love songs sometimes make it seem like emotions are disposable, like we should just replace one person with another without truly healing. But at the end of the day, love songs aren't inherently good or bad. They're reflections of different emotional experiences. But because music is such a huge part of how we understand relationships, it's important to be mindful of what we're internalizing. Maybe the key is to have a balance, to enjoy the sweeping ballads without letting them convince us that love should always be painful, and to embrace the empowerment anthems without shutting ourselves off from vulnerability. Music shapes us in ways we don't always realize, and love songs in particular hold a lot of influence over how we see romance. So, next time you find yourself singing along to a love song, take a moment to think, what is this song teaching me about love? And more importantly, is it something I want to believe? It's definitely not always that deep, but I always think that there's no harm in being reflective and making sure that you're aware of your own thought processes and how the things that you consume are impacting your outlook on the world, in this case, our relationships. So, music doesn't just make us fall in love. It helps us attract and nurture that love and even navigate its loss. From the ways certain songs heighten attraction to how shared musical experiences strengthen emotional bonds, music is woven into every stage of our relationships. It also mirrors the attachment styles that shape how we connect, evolving alongside generational shifts in how we experience love. So, whether you're trying to impress someone with your music skills or taste, building a relationship playlist, or using songs to heal from heartbreak, music connects and speaks to us in ways that words alone never can. And on that note, I would love to know, what are some of your favourite love songs? Let me know. You can send me a DM on our Instagram at the Soundmind Talks. I feel like there's so many love songs out there. Like I said, it feels like almost every song is about love. It just makes it so difficult to choose, but do let me know. And going into Valentine's weekend, just remember, there's so many different types of love to be celebrated. It's not just romantic love. So, however you're celebrating this weekend, I hope you find time to appreciate all those different types of love. Try to put together different playlists, maybe a playlist for romantic love, a playlist for other forms of love. Could be a nice way to reflect on different areas of your life. But that was all I have for you on this Valentine's special episode of The Sound Mind. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed this episode, please rate or review on wherever you're listening, and of course share it with someone who loves music just as much as you do, or might just find it interesting. Don't forget to follow us and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. But until next time, keep listening, keep reflecting, and I'll see you on The Sound Mind.